This is Kathy Fox Alfano, and you're watching Upper Cape Spotlight, Conversations with Kathy. Today, I have a really special guest. This is Andrew Gottlieb. He's the Executive Director of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. Welcome, Andrew. How you doing?
Good to be here with you.
It's great to be here. You are doing so much great work. It's funny because everywhere I go, about the environment or whatever, Andrew's already there. He's been working on so many important projects, and I wanted to let everybody know about them. First of all, Andrew, tell us about the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. How long has it been in existence?
Sure. So APCC has been in existence since 1968.
Wow.
It was founded by a group of concerned citizens who were in opposition to a proposal by the Army Corps of Engineers to dredge the Great Nauset Marsh on the Outer Cape, turn it into a deep water port.
Okay.
They were successful in fighting back against that bad idea and formed the association to help protect and preserve Cape Cod's environment. We promote good land use practices, good water quality practices, try and highlight concerns about the environment and ways that people can do things on their own to influence environmental decision making.
Right. And how did you get involved?
Well, my family was actually early members of APCC. I remember APCC literature on our coffee table when I was a kid. I still have some of it. And having had a career in environmental protection, having served locally as a Mashpee Select Board member for a number of years, had opportunities to interact with APCC over the years. And then when my predecessor decided to retire, the position came up. I applied for it and was fortunate enough to obtain the job.
Great. And how long ago was that?
6.5 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Great. I have to say you're doing a fabulous job because the APCC seems to be a part of so many important things. I mean, you're part of the committee on the bridges. You're up at the base talking to them, and of course all the different water quality concerns, which are growing and growing, and you're always there, which is fabulous. You
Sure.
really.
I mean, APCC. One of the great things about the organization is that it has a long-standing track record and reputation on the Cape as being sort of a responsible but aggressive advocate on behalf of the environment. We are rooted in science. We take positions that have support and validity in how the natural systems work. And I think we have a credibility developed over 55 plus years of activity on the Cape that gives us a forum to be the regional voice for environmental protection. So, the Cape is small, but the Cape is also big. Yeah. There are a lot of issues, and we do try and be everywhere at all times.
You're doing a great job of that. Now, just to start out, if I walk into the water these days, my feet sink into a couple of inches of muck. So what is that?
Right. So our estuaries, there are 53 estuaries on Cape Cod. A lot of people call them bays, but it's a place where salt and fresh water mix and interface with one another. And our estuaries are among the most productive ecosystems in the world. They are central to the Cape's ecological well-being in that they provide habitat for finfish, shellfish, migratory waterfowl, as well as provide an aesthetic appeal and recreational opportunities that for a lot of people reflect what they do on Cape Cod. Of our 53 estuaries, we do an annual State of the Waters report. We're about to release our new one middle of December of this year, and we've been doing it now for 5 years, and we evaluate the water quality of the estuaries, ponds, and freshwater drinking water wells. And what we have found is that 90% of the estuaries on Cape Cod, every single one south-facing into Nantucket Sound, all but one facing Buzzards Bay, all fail to meet state and federal water quality standards. Oh. Why? Because of what you cited, which is there's an accumulation of organic matter on the bottom. If you're my age or older, 60, you probably remember being able to walk out onto these embayments and have hard sand, flat sand
Right.
under your feet. Now that's been replaced by organic matter. That organic matter is decomposed algae. That algae has been fed by the runoff from nutrients from 3 primary sources: septic systems, putting nutrients in the groundwater; fertilizers running off of lawns and manicured areas, either directly into the water or through storm drains,
Right.
roadways into the water, and other forms of stormwater nutrient deposition. And those nutrients have overfed our water resources to the point where algae that blocks sunlight, raises water temperature, consumes oxygen, has caused almost all of our estuaries to fail, and you see degraded water quality as a result.
Wow. So, of course, the question is, what can we do about it? Now, I know we have, local, state, federal government looking at all of these different things, the DEP, whatever. But I mean, what can individuals, families, what can we do
Right.
to help?
The answer is actually relatively simple and straightforward. We're overfeeding our estuaries.
Right.
So we're putting too much nutrient load into the water. So as individuals, the one thing anybody and everybody can do today is to make a decision to stop fertilizing the lawns on their property and fertilizing ornamental bushes. The sort of manicured landscape of turf grass and non-native vegetation that has become popular as suburbanization has spread to Cape Cod. Those lawns and non-native plants don't like it here. And by that, I mean our soils are sandy, they're very porous, they're low nutrient. And manicured lawns and non-native plants require a lot of chemical intervention in the form of fertilizers in order to survive here. So the green lawn that you treasure gets you a green water body. Okay?
Perfect. Right.
So what we advocate is a restoration of more native landscapes, plants and shrubs that are native to the region, that don't require pesticides, fertilizers, and herbicides in order to thrive, provide ecological value to plants and animals that have evolved to be here, and to ease up on the turf lawn. We're not saying, strip your yard, have bare soil. What we are saying is that a traditional Cape Cod lawn is a mix of mosses, clovers, and some turf grass. And we would encourage people to begin introducing clover especially back into the landscape, because not only does it not require chemical fertilizers, it has a symbiotic relationship with bacteria in the ground that actually allows it to pull nitrogen out of the atmosphere and feed the other plants around it.
Wow.
So you can have a better environment and save money if you change some of your lawn practices. Second, so that's something anybody can do on their property starting this coming spring. So really, I would encourage people to think about the choices they're making in their own personal yard. The other advantage of Cape Cod lawns is they are way more drought resilient. And so you're not spending money to put water down, you're not spending money to put fertilizer down, you're not spending money to make your grass grow to then pay someone to come cut it for you. The second thing that individuals can do is inform themselves about the nature of the relationship between their septic system, the groundwater, and the groundwater's relationship to surface waters. So in short, everything we put in the ground is by design going to end up in our underground aquifer, which provides not just water to our embayments and ponds, but also all of our drinking water. The nutrient load from septic systems is the primary source of the water quality problems that we see on the Cape. And while it is difficult for the individual to solve their septic problem by themselves, understanding your role in contributing some portion of the nutrient load that's going to your favorite water body and turning that into an informed advocacy to your town to do town scale projects, largely collection and treatment, what people wastewater treatment plants and sewers is an integral part of the solution to this problem, but also other alternative techniques such as large-scale shellfish aquaculture can help, inlet widening where there are tidal restrictions from road abutments or drainage constraints can also help. But understanding that we all contribute to some of this problem is an important feature to solving it.
One of the things I wanted to show is the Association to Preserve Cape Cod has this beautiful book which shows all about what you can do for your landscape, for your yard, to make it, Cape friendly. And it has, information, but it also has beautiful pictures. And it talks about some of the native plants that you can, acquire. You have a sale, I think, in June. Is that right?
We do a plant sale, native plant sale in June every year. That book that you mentioned, the Guidelines for Cape-Friendly Landscaping Practices, is new this year. We've been really happy with it. We sell it on our website, apcc.org.
Right.
We've also put it in a number of bookstores across the Cape for holiday. And then the other really nice thing we have on our website is a little tool that allows you to provide information about your particular lot, sunny, shady, sloped, not sloped, all those types of attributes. And it will tell you what types of native plants are well suited to your yard.
Okay. The main plant that I think everybody here loves is the hydrangeas.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Well, look at hydrangeas are a non-native, and one of the really important elements that we put forward when we talk to people about changing their landscape practices is you don't have to be a purist and you don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
So you love your hydrangeas, keep your hydrangeas.
Yeah.
But keep your hydrangeas and maybe have a little bit less manicured lawn. Keep a certain plant that you like, but instead of removing all the leaf matter from your lawn, have a mulching mower so you're putting those nutrients back in the ground.
Right. Well, that's important just now. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone's raking up the leaves and taking them away.
Right.
Maybe that's not the best.
Yeah, they're instead of buying, brown or red mulch that comes in from somewhere else, grind up the leaves in your yard, use those to provide cover and moisture and protection to your plants. There's a lot people can do. So you can make a more positive contribution to the nature in your yard by making simple changes, but you don't have to get rid of everything that you like.
Right.
You can work it in, and
it's-
better is good.
Right. And it's actually easier. You can be kind of lazy. That's better.
Well, you certainly, if you're not fertilizing your lawn and therefore it doesn't grow quite as quickly, that Saturday afternoon could be spent taking the advantage of your next guest who's going to tell you where to go fishing. That Saturday afternoon can be spent fishing instead of mowing that lawn.
You mentioned clover. Does clover grow like grass does?
Clover grows at the four-leaf clover.
Right.
It's a it's a broadleaf.
Okay.
It stays green during drought periods. And as I said, it has the benefit of producing its own nitrogen to feed itself and its neighboring plants. So you will have a green space.
Okay.
It will not be a fine leaf,
Right.
Blade of grass, but it's green, it's durable, it's soft to the barefoot. It plays well with kids and pets and the like too.
Do you just buy some and it just does its own thing, growing?
One of the things about
spreading?
clover is it germinates incredibly well
Okay.
and incredibly quickly.
That's what I
You
thought,
just
yeah.
throw a little bit out there and it will spread.
Okay, great. All right.
The other thing about it is, if you're going to grow clover, then don't put down the broadleaf herbicides.
Yes.
Okay, because
Right.
then you're going to plant it, and then
And
you're going to
kill
put herbicides down. It's going to kill it. A
Right.
lot of the herbicides that are out there, go after broadleaf plants because it's seen that anything other than a blade of grass is bad for your lawn, but in fact that's really not the case.
Okay. And I think you had a third thing that we could
Stormwater.
do?
So
Stormwater,
stormwater, stormwater and the septic is really about, engaging your community. And if you go to town meeting, and we encourage people to go to town meetings, encouraging your select board, your DPW, your town meeting to invest in stormwater control. From a public safety point of view, the design manuals all focus on getting the water off the road as quickly as possible. The easiest way to get water off the road is to pipe it to the nearest surface water. That puts not only the nutrients, the sand and grit, the oil and grease and everything else that falls on, puts it right directly into the water supply. We do a lot of work and have been working in partnership with a number of towns on putting in stormwater systems that are low maintenance, easy for towns to maintain and repair, that pull nutrients out of the water before it finds its way to an ultimate receiving body, and also allow the sediments and the oils and greases to drop out. So it's really about understanding what the contributing factors are to the nutrient load that's causing the death of our waters, and being willing to advocate on behalf of restoration of those things. As I said, none of the solutions that we've talked about, stormwater control, fertilizer elimination, limiting pesticides and herbicides, and collecting and treating wastewater to a modern standard, none of those is technologically complex. None of them is a mystery. It requires a commitment by individual voters, commitment by the town, and adequate funding in order to make these things a reality.
Right. Well, I know the DEP regulations are just sort of kicking in now, and I know you definitely agree with them, but the money. There are many people who say, I can't put in a $30,000 system. I don't have that kind of money. What kind of grants or whatever is out there now, and what could we go after in the future?
Sure. So there's actually, for the last almost 15 years, there's been a series of things done by the legislature to recognize the fact that the Cape is in a uniquely vulnerable position relative to its waste disposal practices, and to provide additional funding in order to assist that. So from the town level, there's now no interest loans available from the state. So if a town wants to put forward a wastewater management program, they can get a loan for a project at no interest. And since the interest is forgiven, it effectively functions as a grant, so some portion of it, right? So if you're borrowing $10 million and you're paying back $10 million instead of $12 million had you borrowed it on interest rate, it's effectively a $2 million grant. There's principal forgiveness. So the Cape and Islands Water Protection Trust Fund, which was created in 2018, which is funded out of a 2.75% surcharge on overnight stays anywhere in Barnstable County, and goes back to towns that are putting forward wastewater management projects for which they get loans. That has provided in the last several years well in excess of $100 million in principal forgiveness to 8 of the 15 towns on Cape Cod that have put projects forward for nutrient mitigation. It has functioned as a 25% grant. So all of a sudden that $10 million hypothetical project that I mentioned that you're getting a $10 million loan from, not only you're not paying interest, you can only pay back $7.5 million of the 10. Those are available to any town on Cape Cod that puts forward a compelling wastewater management program that gets state funding for a loan. In addition to that, there is through the Barnstable County something called the Aqua Fund, which is a sliding scale, no credit check loan for either septic upgrades or sewer connection. So that if you have an income roughly at or below $95,000, you qualify for a no interest loan. If you have an income between 95 and say 160 roughly, you get a 2% loan, and then people above that qualify for 4% loans. Those serve and function as basically as betterments on your property, pay them back on a annualized basis, and they're very easy and quick to get. So there is some funding assistance available. The best way under the new DEP regulations governing septic systems for the individual to avoid exposure and requirement to have upgrading of their existing system is to have the town in which they live agree that they're going to pursue a watershed permit and solve their water quality problem on a municipal scale. Once your town does that within the next 2 years, right? So by 2026, January 1, 2026, the need to and requirement to upgrade your existing system goes away. So it is entirely up to your community
Right.
as an individual, and that's true of, I know we're in Bourne TV at the moment, but for any one of the other 14 towns on Cape Cod, the obligation to upgrade their septic system within 7 years is completely within the ability of your local select board to make go away.
Right. Okay. That is all mind-boggling, but yeah, we have to do it. There's no, you can't just sit back and do nothing now.
Well, there's an enormous, people like to focus on the cost of solving the problem,
Right.
which is not insignificant.
Right.
I will tell you that with the special incentives that have been made available to Cape towns, it costs less to build a wastewater treatment plant and sewers on Cape Cod than any one of the other 340-something communities remaining in Massachusetts.
Right. And the cost of not doing it is far greater.
And that's where I was going.
Yeah.
There is a huge cost to doing nothing.
Right.
The economic well-being of the region is predicated on the fact that people want to come here. Why? Not because they want to sit in traffic, but because when they sit in traffic, they want to arrive at their favorite water place,
Right.
whether it's a freshwater pond, whether it's an estuary, whether it's the ocean. And when people become aware of the fact that our waters are of lesser quality than the comparable vacation destination that they have options to go to, and they start to go to those other places,
Right.
then the whole house of cards falls apart.
You're right.
There's an enormous cost to doing nothing.
Right.
People don't, it's hard to make that as tangible as the cost of putting forward a particular construction project, but it's no less significant and no less devastating. In fact, I would argue more so.
I agree. Another thing we have affecting our waters here is Holtec
Yes.
in Plymouth. Yes, folks, it's not a done deal that they're not going to start polluting our waters with excess radiation and things you can't even believe that anyone thinks this is a good idea. But it's because it's cheap, not because it's good. Where are we on that?
So APCC has been pretty heavily involved in this the last couple of years now. Holtec is the nuclear decommissioning company that is taking apart the old Pilgrim nuclear power plant in Plymouth. And as part of that process, they have about 1,100,000 gallons or so of processed wastewater that was used in the facility, is currently being used as a radiation shield for the workers who are decontaminating portions of the facility before they ship it off for ultimate disposal. And at the end of the decommissioning process, they revealed a little more than almost 2 years ago now that they intended to discharge that radioactive industrialized wastewater into Cape Cod Bay because, as you say, it was the least cost objective or opportunity for disposal for them. APCC and a lot of other people have opposed that plan. We did something that was very unusual for us. I hired lawyers. We don't tend to be a particularly litigious organization. This was one case where a proposed activity by this industrial player was so egregiously wrong and so obviously counter to Massachusetts law that we felt no choice but to arm ourselves with lawyers. So we provided an 11-page analysis to the incoming Healy administration that demonstrated that, in fact, notwithstanding claims that the state had no regulatory authority to control this discharge, that, in fact, we did have statutory authority to do so. We laid out under the Ocean Sanctuaries Act how the Commonwealth could deny this application, this activity. The Healy administration back in July issued a preliminary determination indicating that they would deny Holtec the authority to discharge. It went through a public hearing process, and we are currently awaiting finalization of that expected denial. We are prepared, given Holtec's track record and sort of better to ask forgiveness than permission approach to the world, that we are prepared to go to state and federal court to enjoin them from violating the anticipated denial and ensure that the region resource of Cape Cod Bay is protected from this outrageous behavior.
Totally agree. And then finally, quickly, the other thing that everyone is concerned about, we thought it was put to bed, but maybe not, is the machine gun range up at the base.
Sure. So again, this has been one of our top priorities.
Right.
The machine gun range at Joint Base Cape Cod is also right on top of the Upper Cape Regional Water Supply Reserve. We think that, and EPA agrees with us, that in fact that siting provides substantial and significant harm to the public water supply of the region. They've issued their finding that that is in fact the case, or their draft finding. We're waiting for that, much like the Holtec one, to be finalized by the EPA. We're also increasingly concerned that the Joint Base leadership may proceed with the project whether they have permits or not, evidenced by the fact that the very day that the EPA public comment process was to close, they solicited bids for construction of the facility. They've received, which we discovered through through public information records requests, they've gotten 2 bids for the construction of the project. They do not have sufficient money to build it as it's been bid, and we are working with the congressional delegation to ensure that no additional funds are appropriated for this ill-conceived project at this location.
Great. Okay, so folks, if all these things are important to you, and they should be, because we need to preserve Cape Cod, we even need to go back to how it was 50 years ago in our waters, so they're clean. If you agree with this, please join the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, and the website is
apcc.org.
Couldn't be easier. I think everybody on the Cape should join, and so we can protect the place that we love. Thank you so much, and thank you, Andrew, for all your work. There's so much to do. It's incredible.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.